Tonight on PhillyCAM Voices, we have two in-studio interviews produced by the new fellows in the PhillyCAM Community Media Mentorship Program, along with a segment from PhillyCAM reporter Toya Haynes. The Community Media Mentorship Program is a 6 months long program where participants receive training in media production and build a portfolio of journalistic video pieces produced for television. Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to PhillyCAM Voices. I'm your host, Connie Komm. Storyteller Shania White brings us an interview with the executive director of Urban Technology Project, Shana Savage, who works in a youth and workforce development, or Shana Savage, whose work in youth and workforce development has led her to support growing jobs in the tech industry for the past 2 years. Urban Technology Project is a collaborative initiative between the School District of Philadelphia and Communities in Schools of Philadelphia, Inc., that empowers communities through meaningful technological experiences that link youth leadership development, education, and community building, with the focus on providing job access to underserved communities within the city of Philadelphia. UTP has provided a continuum of service learning and school to work experiences for Philadelphia youth and beyond. Welcome to the studio, Shania and Shana.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you, Connie.
hello, Connie, and hello, Voices. Thank you for having both me and Shayna. So we're just gonna hop right into the conversation. I'm sorry if there's noise in my background, but just to start off by getting to know the project more, what is the Urban Technology Project?
Certainly. The Urban Technology Project is the School District of Philadelphia's IT apprenticeship program. What does apprenticeship mean? Apprenticeships are basically paid training programs that provide individuals with training, mentorship, and on the job experience for careers that they're training for. So that's the Urban Technology Project. We are preparing underrepresented individuals for careers in tech. And it is an alternative pathway for those who otherwise can't go the traditional route of college to pursue a traditional computer science degree. We have lots of graduating high school seniors from the city of Philadelphia, career changers, veterans, people from all walk of life that have the aptitude and the interest to pursue careers in tech, but lack a pathway and access to opportunity. So that's what the Urban Technology Project offers. It is, again, a paid training program, and we provide on-the-job experience in tech, mentorship, and certifications that open doors for individuals to pursue a career in technology.
Thank you. And I heard that you mentioned prioritizing underserved communities within Philadelphia. So could you talk a little bit more about the program's mission and vision and what programs are prioritized within the project?
Of course. So our focus has always been since 2002. We actually are celebrating our 20th year anniversary this year, and we're so excited about this work, has been about increasing diversity in tech and expanding access for those who otherwise wouldn't have it through a traditional college degree pathway. So that has been our singular focus, is really to increase diversity in tech, provide a clear pathway to careers in tech, to empower Philadelphians with the skills and experience they need to pursue a career in tech. And then also connecting local providers or local employers with local diverse talent. As we all know, the numbers of people of color, the number of women in tech are very dismal, and companies have really included this as a part of their DEI and their values and their companies. And so we pride ourselves in being a solution to that problem in terms of increasing access to tech and also connecting employers with diverse talent in tech.
What is your take on diversity and BIPOC visibility in the IT sector and tech industry within the United States?
Right. So I'll throw out a few numbers here and you'll really get a sense of how bad it is. We're all really working, especially in the Philadelphia tech ecosystem, we all are working really hard on increasing these numbers. But overall, there's about 28% women are represented in the tech field, and 9% of that 25% are women of color. So only 9% are women of color in the tech field. When you look at it holistically from a people of color standpoint of in the tech workforce, 7% are African American, 8% are Hispanic, and 14% are Asian American. 68% are white males. So there's a huge problem there. Again, this is no secret to any tech company, and this has been on the forefront of many companies to how do we change this? How do we make tech more representative of others? How do we make tech more equitable? How do we make tech more accessible? And we all are going about this in multiple different ways, from just increasing access on an elementary school level, making sure every student has a Chromebook. That's something that the School District of Philadelphia has done by increasing access to technology and increasing connectivity. And I know that was a huge initiative that is still ongoing by Comcast. And our part in this is, again, recruiting people of color, recruiting women, recruiting underrepresented individuals for careers in tech. It is a booming industry. Tech is growing at 11%, when other career fields are growing at 3 to 4%. So it's a growing industry. It has amazing innovations. It's a part of all of our lives, whether we like it or not. And the income that you can really earn is life-changing, is family-changing, the sort of salaries that you can make in this tech field. So we don't want to be left out or left behind. We want to make sure that all talent is considered.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shana. And it's definitely is shown that Urban Technology Project is looking to bridge the gap in terms of providing individuals who are not visible within the tech industry access to job opportunities. So in terms of what Urban Technology Project is doing right now, what are some programs you all are working on the community should be aware of? And what are some, what are ways people can get involved and stay connected to you?
Awesome, thank you. So one thing that we're working on is connecting with local employers. We want to connect with local employers and put our apprentices to work, not just in the schools, because currently our primary employer is, or work site, are schools within the School District of Philadelphia. But one of our major projects is really expanding to local employers who, again, have a focus on DEI and creating access to careers in tech for underrepresented individuals. So that is a primary focus, looking for employers that are really looking to hire based upon skills and not pedigree, such as college degree. One way that folks can get involved is definitely by mentorship. That's a critical part of our program. So we're always looking for technologists who want to serve as mentors. Also, another thing that we are in the thicket of right now is recruiting. So anyone who is watching this production, we are recruiting for apprentices to start in August. It's a one-year apprenticeship, again, where you get on-the-job, hands-on experience, mentorship, and you earn certifications, and it's all paid. And this is a paid experience where, again, we are providing access to careers in tech. So check us out on our website. Again, we are currently recruiting and hiring for our 2022-2023 cohort of UTP apprentices.
Thank you so much, Shana. I really appreciated speaking with you today. And I know everyone is eager to learn more about Urban Technology Project and potentially get involved, as I've been interested in getting involved as well. So thank you.
Thank you,
All
Shania.
right. All right, so that was great, Shania and Shana on the technology project. Now we have reporter and community organizer Salia Durant. She's interviewing Solange Azor, director of the Abortion Liberation Fund in Pennsylvania, formerly known as the Women's Medical Fund. Solange organizes with networks and organizations to build collective power with people navigating financial, logistical, and societal barriers to abortion access. This work exists to resolve the challenges faced by centering the experience of gender marginalized people who have abortions and works to tackle intersections of racial, economic, and reproductive injustice.
Thanks, Connie. And hi, Solange. So happy to have you here in the virtual Zoom studio with us live. And I'm really excited to talk to you today, given the political climate that we're in right now. So let's just jump right on in. My first question for you is, can you explain what is the Abortion Liberation Fund? How did you get involved in this work? And why do you do this work?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk abortion and reproductive justice today with you. So the Abortion Liberation Fund was created in the 80s in response to Pennsylvania passing legislation that prohibited Medicaid from funding abortion. So the founders realized that there would be, given the devastation that legislation would create, would be fruitful to invest in making sure that bridging the access gap that was about to be created for especially poor and working class communities. It was also founded by white women, which I think is important to say because, they have a different investment and understanding of the experience of poverty and state control. So for a long time, it existed as a single issue organization that, was more charity than solidarity. And in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a real transformation towards being more anchored in solidarity and justice and more away from reproductive rights and single issue abortion concern and more towards, reproductive justice. And today we are still funding abortions. We are building up a community organizing program. And like was shared in the intro, have a lot of really, thinking of creative strategies to bridge the gap of abortion oppression in this state. And so I'm kind of new to the organization. I joined in December, at the end of 2021 in December, but I've been in this work for a while. I have always been invested in gender justice. While I was in college, I studied women, gender, sexuality, and was getting really excited about the ideas and the movement behind reproductive justice. I also had an abortion in college, and that was a really formative experience and really got me wanting to better understand, the history of abortion oppression and how it intersected with all these other models of oppression. And I'm also a doula, and I was practicing as a community doula for a while, and also got to see a different side of pregnancy and families through that work. And and I guess a combination of those things landed me here as one of the organizers at the fund.
Awesome. Well, we're so lucky to have you. So appreciative of the work that you've done. And you actually touched on a few things that I wanted to raise in this next question. So what do you see, for folks who are on the ground attempting to remove any sort of barriers to reproductive justice? What do you think are some of the biggest issues and some of the biggest misconceptions about reproductive justice and abortion access?
Oh my gosh, if I had 30 minutes, I could talk nonstop, but I'll speak to abortion specifically first, and then, I'll look a little bit more broadly at reproductive justice. But in Pennsylvania, it is so hard to get an abortion. First of all, the cost, right? an out-of-pocket abortion, which again, if you're on Medicaid in the state, you're paying out of pocket, can cost anywhere between $400 and $3,000, right? And that's also not factoring in maybe you have to travel, all these other logistic costs. That is a lot of money. And then you also have, a whole set of decades worth of legislation that was passed to make it even harder on top of that. So we have a 24-hour waiting period. We have medically inaccurate state-mandated counseling. We have, in the state, I think about 85% of counties don't have an abortion clinic. And I feel like the fact that I come back to every single day, because it just speaks so powerfully about, what we're facing here, is in the 70s, I believe Pennsylvania had something around like 140 abortion providers. And today, and that was in the whole state, right? And today in the whole state, I don't even know if that we have a dozen. And I mean, I think that speaks for itself. But looking again, at reproductive justice, because as we know, like abortion is not just about whether or not you can get an abortion, right? Reproductive justice, the tenets of it, as was created by feminists of color in the 90s, is the right to have a child, the right to not have a child, and the right to raise families in safe and sustainable communities. So when you're also thinking about, reproductive oppression, here in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, what stops people from the right to safely parent or the right to even, think through a decision whether or not to have a family is, racial capitalism and its effects. So that's housing injustice, right? That's having under-resourced communities, food deserts, environmental racism, prison and policing systems, the medical industrial complex, which, I think in Philadelphia, like many other cities, the rates of perinatal mortality for Black birthing people is significantly higher than their white counterparts. And again, that's a product of the fact that our medical system was designed to, include anti-Blackness in its structures. So yeah, there's a lot that, limits everybody's ability to have a family and to have self-determined paths of reproduction, but especially for people who are marginalized or multiply marginalized. You can imagine all those things are felt like tenfold. Yeah, it's a lot.
Dropping gems all day long. Thank you, Solange. Right. I think you really unpacked all the different layers, right, that go into this conversation. And obviously, this isn't a conversation that's ever out of date, right? We know that recently in early May, there was a memo released from the Supreme Court with details of officially overturning Roe versus Wade. Can you give me your thoughts on what this, could mean for marginalized communities and who this will impact?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I appreciate you asking. The memo is devastating to read. And, I think for myself, definitely, but I think for a lot of people who have been practicing reproductive justice or even who have lived experiences of reproductive oppression, realize have seen this coming to some extent. And also, really, like Roe v. Wade was formative for a lot of people, but 2 years after Roe v. Wade was passed, they passed the Hyde Amendment, which just, gutted abortion access for, again, marginalized people, but especially low income, poor working class people and families. So for so many communities, and especially the people who are calling our helpline, like our communities, Roe never offered the protection that, people I think it has, because there's just been such a constant and targeted and successful attack on reproductive autonomy. And I think there's, a feeling of grief and loss for, the centuries of that happening. But also there's a real grounding in the reality that, people will always have abortions. History has shown us people need abortions. They will care for abortions. What I'm afraid of now, obviously, is the increase in harms and consequences that comes from having the state target. Oh, I can't hear you for some reason.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I muted.
I wasn't on mute. Yeah. Oh, a Zoom bingo moment. Thank you so much for that interview, Solange. And I'm going to pass the mic right back to Connie. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Solange and Salia. That was great. And now we have reporter Toya Haynes, who interviews local musician Balmour about, about his sophomore release, Double HP. This conceptual album was influenced heavily by his love for gaming and using music to talk about the challenges in romantic relationships. As an up and coming artist in Philadelphia, listen as he shares what it's like being part of what he says is a creative renaissance in the music community.
Philadelphia artist Balmour just released his sophomore album titled Double HP. We spoke with him about the unique concept behind the album, what helped push him to release a project during the pandemic, and why he feels that Philadelphia's soul music scene is experiencing a renaissance.
So you just dropped your first full-length project, right? Called Double HP, and it's like a mixtape. It's a whole concept behind it. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, and there's a lot of moving pieces with it, but basically Double HP is my largest body of work to date. I'm going to call it my sophomore effort. We dropped Unplugged 4 years ago, but it didn't contain nearly as much tracks. But Double HP is basically, we're working as like a live service mixtape, where basically we're going to drop like DLC packs in the same way like a live service video game would be, and hopefully we hope to curate that for the next couple years, man. Hopefully if people are still into it, but it's 15 tracks, 4 interlude, 11 full-length tracks, and I like to think it's a new experience every time you listen to it. I'm an avid video game guy, so the aesthetic of Double HP was kind of like intuitive. I definitely knew I wanted to go deeper into like a tech-focused area. My first tape was Unplugged. Double HP is another kind of like, tech type of theme.
Balmour had released the singles A Lion and Baggage ahead of the release of his sophomore project, Double HP. Like many artists, he struggled to complete and release music during the pandemic. Fortunately, receiving recognition from one of his favorite artists really gave him the push he needed to finally complete the album.
I think the end of 2019. And we dropped Baggage, and that following summer, one of my favorite local artists, Chill Moody, man, who I've been looking up for years, had posted Baggage on his story, and I'm like, yo, he's listening to my music, man. That's crazy, and it just kind of gave me, I think, the fire I needed to push through the pandemic and drop this whole body of work, which I'm really, really proud of. With Double HP basically saying like the message boils down to hurt people, right? And that's what it actually means, Double HP.
Oh, wow. I did not realize that until you said Double HP, and I was like,
right. Because I want to go into it and with no intention, kind of getting into that video game gimmick and buying into it and start to realize over the course of 15 tracks, like, no, we're talking about something here.
Yeah.
But no, that's the imagery, and then Double HP is hurt people, and then the interludes kind of tell a story in between the tracks, and the tracks tell stories within themselves. So hopefully over the course of 40 minutes, people can start to recognize their own vices and the things they allow from other people that takes place, which might not be acceptable. And the tagline that we talk about in every discussion about this tape, me and my team, is if you listen to the music and you feel like validated by the things you're hearing, you have some healing to do. And if you listen to the tape and you feel triggered by what you're listening to, you have some healing to do as well.
When you knew that you wanted to do a solo album, was this the concept that you had, or did it kind of just develop over time with situations and things that you wanted to write about? Okay.
I didn't know what story I would tell.
Okay.
I knew all my music is about relationships. And not like you said, it's not just like the cheating or like the I love you songs or like the sexual record. It's more like sometimes people are just annoying.
Right. Sometimes people have baggage. Sometimes.
Right. But then also like sometimes I'm not being a good person. And that ended up being the story like a cautionary tale I ended up forming with Double HP, but it was definitely like the story of my 2020/2021. I consolidated into like a body of work that I think people would sit down for.
Do you think that's important in songwriting, particularly within R&B music as a male artist, to talk about those parts where it's like, not only have I been wrong, but I've been wrong? Like, do you think that's important to have that perspective and to share that in songwriting?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important for just first to be like truthful about what it is.
And
like,
be self-aware in general, right?
Yeah, just being truthful and intentional about what it is that you're making. And your storytelling, it doesn't have to fall into those three categories. It doesn't have to fall into a love song or a hate song. Right? It doesn't have to be like that. Like, and I hope to, as I write, to kind of open the door for people's thinking.
Yeah. Can you just kind of talk to us about how it is to be creating in Philadelphia right now?
Yeah. Right now. So I think that's a great question. Philly is going through what I feel like to be a small renaissance. Their artists carry a lot of angst in this city historically, because it always feels like we're knocking on a door. And I feel like these past 2 or 3 years, even through the pandemic, I'm watching artists have doors open to them. I'm witnessing like this sense of camaraderie that I've never felt before. And it's like newer guard of Philly musicians just really being competitive in a healthy way with their peers and in their craft. So I'm looking at Bea, I'm looking at Hollywood Kane, I'm looking at Chemist, I'm looking at Kingsley, I'm looking at Jasmine Castle, I'm looking at all these artists, and I'm gonna kind of include like South Jersey as well, because we're forming this kind of like symbiotic relationship with each other, and it just feels really healthy, and it feels really intuitive, and it feels really organic. And I know just with the level of intent that these artists are pouring into their most recent releases, that years from now, people are going to look back at 2022, 2023 and say, wow, like we got to really get up close and personal with these people, and it means something.
What's next for Balmour? It's very early, I know, for this project. It just came out. So what are your other plans?
Listen, so what we hope to do is, and this is something that's already in the works, is to continue to curate this live EP experience in the same way that video game developers will curate or reiterate or whatever a game over the course of a couple years. So we have DLC, which is like, if you play games, it's called downloadable content. So we hope to extend like the shelf life of this game over the course of a few months or years, or however long people buy into the tape. So those tracks are finished. We have some visuals shot out by Dev Fonrose at Noir Films and Daryl Gatewood at Knock on Wood Productions, the same guys who shot the Align visual, and I'm so grateful for them. We have a couple videos coming, and they're all kind of they're just really cool. And then then we got some performances coming up.
I'm Toya Haynes for PhillyCAM Voices.
But she just not that mood. It's something I can't find.
All right, Toya and Balmour, Double HP. Remember that, folks, Double HP. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Look out in the coming months for stories from the second round of the Community Reporting Fellows. You can also watch our show on YouTube and Roku, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you next time.